Welcome to Reds Focus LFC fans. Today we bring you the top 4 breaking Liverpool news headlines.
Antoine Semenyo tipped as perfect for Liverpool. Arne Slot clashes with Jamie Carragher, and Konate edges closer to a new deal. Big transfer twists, contract news, and a possible free January signing. Subscribe now for daily Liverpool FC updates you don't want to miss. Antoine Semenyo perfect for Liverpool as transfer disagreement emerges amid Man City development. Antoine Semenyo has been linked with a move to Liverpool in January, although Manchester City now looks to have taken the lead in the race for the Bournemouth star's signature. Antoine Semenyo appears destined for Manchester City, and Stephen Warnock reckons that might actually work in Liverpool's favor. City have emerged as frontrunners to snap up Semenyo after Chelsea's interest in the Bournemouth winger went cold. The Ghana international has also been touted with a switch to Anfield in recent months. Manchester United and Tottenham Hotspur were similarly keen on securing the 25-year-old who has an $87 million, £65 million release clause in his Bournemouth deal that kicks in next month. Semenyo is versatile enough to operate as a striker or on either flank and has netted 19 league goals over 2 full seasons since his move from Bristol City to Bournemouth in 2023. However, former Liverpool defender Warnock has raised doubts about whether a transfer to Anfield would represent too significant a leap for Semenyo, reports the Liverpool Echo. "I think they eventually have to find someone on that right-hand side," Warnock told AceOdds.com. Semenyo has been mentioned as a player who potentially could be that player. There's a difference between playing for Bournemouth and Liverpool. We have seen it with Milos Kerkez as well. That was the same scenario. He is the perfect case to look at when it comes to the person and the pressure to be at Liverpool. I like Semenyo. I think he's a brilliant player, and I think he's very capable. But do we know whether he could cope with playing in a Liverpool shirt and providing goals and assists week in, week out? Before the match against Man United, he had played 7 matches without scoring. If he went 7 matches without scoring for Liverpool, things would be a lot different. There would be a pressure on him, especially with the money he would cost. It might be something he embraces. It might be a challenge that would excite him. Maybe he would enjoy that pressure and thrive under that pressure. I like him and he's physically outstanding. I think he suits the Premier League. One thing you have to look at when finding a new player is how quickly he can adapt to the Premier League, and he already knows the Premier League. Everything will just be about how he can adapt playing for Liverpool. However, Jermaine Jenas, a former Premier League star, disagrees with Warnock's assessment, arguing earlier this week that Liverpool would be an ideal fit for Semenyo. Semenyo would be perfect for Liverpool. More than replacing a potential Mo Salah departure, I think it's addressing Luis Diaz's exit. I think Cody Gakpo is a little bit predictable at times, and I think someone with a little bit more of a dynamic edge to them down that left-hand side would be good. I also think Spurs would be another good option for Semenyo, but then who else have you got? He's not going to go to Chelsea, he's not going to go to Manchester City, so yeah, I think Liverpool and Spurs are probably the 2 best options, for him to be looking at.
Arne Slot and Jamie Carragher disagree on Micky van de Ven's challenge after Alexander Isak when the Liverpool striker was left with a broken leg, but Jamie Carragher takes a different view on it. Arne Slot and Jamie Carragher are in disagreement on Micky van de Ven's challenge on Alexander Isak, which has left the Liverpool striker facing a long spell on the sidelines. Isak was clattered into by the Tottenham defender in the process of scoring the Reds' opener during Saturday's 2-1 win in North London. Having been forced off less than 15 minutes after making his entrance as a substitute, it was confirmed earlier this week that the 26-year-old had suffered a broken leg. Liverpool revealed that Isak underwent surgery on a fractured fibula and ankle injury and now faces at least 2 or 3 months out of action. The injury comes as a major blow not only for Isak, who would have hoped that his goal could have been the catalyst for him to kick on after a tough start to life at Anfield, following his record-breaking move from Newcastle, but for Liverpool as well, at a time when options in attack are running low. And, though he did raise hopes of Isak returning before the end of the season, Slot seemed far from happy with Van de Ven's challenge when he spoke about it on Tuesday, during his pre-match press conference ahead of the game against Wolves. "For me, this was a reckless challenge," Slot said. "I think I've said a lot about the tackle of Xavi Simons, which for me was completely unintentional, and I don't think you will ever get an injury out of a tackle like that. The tackle of Van de Ven, if you make that tackle 10 times, I think 10 times there is a serious chance that the player gets a serious injury." Not everyone agrees with the Liverpool boss, though. Spurs boss Thomas Frank hit back at Slot's comments when he spoke at his own press conference on Tuesday, while former Premier League referee Dermot Gallagher insisted he would have been astonished if Van de Ven had been shown a red card for the tackle. And Reds legend Carragher finds himself in the same boat, having defended Van de Ven when reviewing the incident on Sky Sports Monday Night Football. "There's a lot been made about a lot of the challenges in the game from Tottenham players, and a lot of them weren't clever. I've put myself in Van de Ven's position, and that's a challenge I'd probably make. He's trying to block it, it's just the follow-through. I don't know where else anyone thinks his foot's going to go. He has to make that challenge. You can't let the striker just get a shot away there in that situation. It's just really bad luck for Isak. It's probably one of the first glimpses we've seen of his real quality in a Liverpool shirt."
Ibrahima Konate contract decision nears as Liverpool consider a difficult center-back choice. Here we go. While the Premier League ramps up for another hectic festive schedule, even without the usual Boxing Day fare, those with a preference for transfers ahead of tactics are rubbing their hands together at the prospect of another January window opening. And the new year could have a pivotal bearing on both the immediate and long-term future of Liverpool's rearguard. Speaking last week, Reds boss Arne Slot played down the possibility of a new center-back being recruited next month, despite Liverpool having shown their hand somewhat when coming close to signing Marc Guehi for £35 million on deadline day in September, only for Crystal Palace to pull the plug at the last minute. That apparent shift in priority is all the more intriguing given the one central defender Liverpool did bring in during the summer, teenager Giovanni Leone from Parma, was ruled out for the season after injuring his ACL towards the end of his impressive debut in the League Cup win over Southampton in September. Throw in the intermittent availability of Joe Gomez and the current fitness concern over occasional center-back Wataru Endo, Liverpool have become almost exclusively reliant at the heart of the backline on the long-established partnership of Ibrahima Konate and captain Virgil van Dijk. Indeed, the pairing has started together in every Premier League and Champions League game this season, along with the Community Shield loss to Palace. While the fact Konate and Van Dijk avoided any significant injury concerns during that period will have been a source of relief for Slot, the lack of obvious competition for too often in the season has meant the former in particular has had to play his way back into form after a torrid period as Liverpool slumped to 9 defeats and 12 in all competitions. As Slot admitted following the tumultuous 3-3 draw at Leeds United earlier this month, Konate has been too much at the crime scene after the Frenchman blotted his copybook after a decent display by gifting Leeds the penalty that allowed them back into the game. There have been other mistakes, most notably against PSV Eindhoven, but Konate has had no option but to front up game after game, Liverpool unable to take him out of the firing line. It hasn't been an easy time, but recent evidence suggests the 26-year-old may have turned a corner, impressive in the wins at both Inter and, last weekend, Tottenham Hotspur. Yet if talk over his performance levels may be easing, the debate will now spark over Konate's future and that of the center-back area in general for Liverpool. With the defender out of contract at the end of the season and talks having reached an impasse over a new deal, from next Thursday he will be able to negotiate with clubs from outside England over a potential free transfer next summer. Real Madrid may have backed away from a possible move, but rumors continue of interest from the likes of Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain. And that doubt over Konate's future will surely influence whether Liverpool make another concerted effort to sign Guehi in January, albeit mindful they could snap up the player for nothing in 6 months, and that they now face strong competition from the likes of Bayern and Manchester City. That Konate was missing from training on Tuesday ahead of Saturday's Premier League visit of struggling Wolves was an unwanted reminder of the lack of options at centre-back, with Gomez already a confirmed absentee alongside Leone and Endo. It leaves the prospect of Ryan Gravenberch having to drop in alongside Van Dijk, or teenager Welody Lucky, who made his debut against Palace in the League Cup and has been training regularly with the first team of late, being handed a Premier League bow. Fears over his absence serve to underline how Konate remains a vital proponent for Slot, and his next career decision will have ramifications for Liverpool. The clock is ticking on more than just the Frenchman's time at Anfield. Here we go.
Liverpool can save millions on ideal Marc Guehi alternative, but there is a catch for double deal. Liverpool's transfer links to Crystal Palace captain Marc Guehi date back months and years, but rumors regarding another defender have been going on for almost a decade. Liverpool have another chance to finally secure the signature of Dayot Upamecano in this January transfer window, rather than revisiting their interest in Marc Guehi. Reports linking the Reds to Upamecano date back to his move from Red Bull Salzburg to RB Leipzig back in 2017. Speculation persisted for the next 4 years until perennial Bundesliga champions Bayern Munich clinched a deal to sign the French international. Upamecano inked a 5-year contract with the German powerhouse in the summer of 2021. 4.5 years later, a new contract remains unsigned. If that does not change before New Year's Day, the player will be free to sign a pre-contract agreement with any foreign club. Liverpool are all too familiar with this scenario, having experienced it during the Trent Alexander-Arnold saga that overshadowed their last winter transfer window. Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk were also in a similar position last January, but they eventually signed extensions this spring. This winter, the focus is squarely on central defenders. Guehi, Ibrahima Konate, and Upamecano are all entering the final 6 months of their contracts. Guehi was on the brink of signing for the Reds on the last day of the summer transfer window. However, there are no guarantees that they will reignite any deal with Crystal Palace in the first month of 2026. Konate's future is also uncertain. Bayern and Paris Saint-Germain are among the clubs reportedly interested in the French international, while Real Madrid have backed off from a potential move. The former and latter are said to be interested in Guehi, with Manchester City also seemingly in the mix. However, interest from Bavaria would likely only persist if they are prepared to lose Upamecano. PSG and Real Madrid are reportedly chasing the central defender, yet there were reports a few weeks ago suggesting that a new contract agreement was imminent. Liverpool's pursuit and potential signing of Upamecano could even persuade Konate to remain at Anfield. The duo previously formed a defensive partnership for Leipzig and occasionally do so for the French national team, having also played together for the under-21s. Eurosport France posed a question to Konate in March 2023, asking him to compare Upamecano and Virgil van Dijk. Chuckling at the query, he responded, "What kind of question is that? You can't compare the two. With Upamecano, we are in the same category, even if he is a very high competitor, but Van Dijk, I put him on a different planet. We're still a long way from achieving what he did, although we will get there one day, I have no doubt."
Liverpool can sign ideal Marc Guehi alternative for free in January if double deal goes to plan. Marc Guehi is not the only in-demand central defender who enters the final 6 months of their contract when the January transfer window opens on New Year's Day. Liverpool could finally sign Dayot Upamecano during this January transfer window rather than returning for Marc Guehi. The Reds have been credited with an interest in Upamecano since he moved from Red Bull Salzburg to RB Leipzig back in 2017. Rumours remained over the next 4 years until Bayern Munich agreed to sign the France international. Upamecano signed a 5-year contract with the German Giants in the summer of 2021. 4.5 years have now passed since then, and a new deal is still not signed. Unless that changes before New Year's Day, the player will be able to sign a pre-contract agreement with any overseas club. Liverpool know all too well about that from the Trent Alexander-Arnold saga that loomed large over their last winter transfer window. Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk were also able to do so last January, but ultimately signed extensions this spring. This winter, it is all about central defenders. Guehi, Ibrahima Konate and Upamecano are all entering the final 6 months of their contracts. The former came so close to signing for the Reds on transfer deadline day this summer. However, there are no guarantees that they will revive any deal with Crystal Palace in the first month of 2026. Konate's future is also far from certain. Bayern and Paris Saint-Germain are two clubs reportedly interested in the France international, with Real Madrid backing away from a potential move. The former are said to be keen on Guehi, and Manchester City appear to be as well. Interest from Bavaria would seemingly only remain if they accept losing Upamecano. PSG and Real Madrid are reportedly pursuing the central defender. However, there were claims weeks ago that an agreement over a new contract was close. Liverpool competing for and signing Upamecano could even convince Konate to stay at Anfield. The pair previously partnered each other in defence for Leipzig and occasionally continue to do so for the France national team, having also played together for the under-21s. Eurosport France asked Konate in March 2023 to compare Upamecano and Virgil van Dijk. Laughing in response to the question, he asked, "What kind of question is that? You can't compare the two." With Upamecano, we are in the same category, even if he is a very high competitor. But Van Dijk, I put him on a different planet. We're still a long way from achieving what he did, although we will get there one day, I have no doubt.